Welcome to Lesson 4 of Unit 1 of Marketing Analytics. We shall be talking about market analysis in this lesson. When we talk about market analysis, so we need to look at a lot of factors. But before I talk about the learning outcomes, let me take you back as to what we have covered so far. We have looked at data in detail, we have looked at stats, and we also tried to see how we can interpret the data using two tools, and one was Microsoft Excel, and I introduced to you Microsoft Azure Machine Learning, that is MS Azure ML. Hopefully by now you might have created your accounts in Microsoft Azure and you have started working. So let me talk about the outcomes that we are going to have, learning outcomes from this lesson of market analysis. We'll be looking at four things. Number one, we'll try to review the marketing process which you had been reading in your marketing classes so far. And then we'll take an example of Airbnb through which we'll try to understand the process in depth. Then we'll look at three very important dimensions from marketing analytics point of view, which are relating to the marketing. The first one is the sales forecasting, second is the market share, and third is the market performance. So in all, marketing process and three dimensions of marketing from the analytics point of view. When we talk about the marketing process, what we are talking here is that for any marketing process, firstly, you look at the objectives. So you set the objectives, wherein you try to put the objectives keeping in mind the 5 C's, the customer, the company, the competitor, the collaborators, and the context. From the objectives, you move to the strategy, and we always call that as STP, that is the segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So you make the strategies for the segmentation, for targeting, and for positioning your product or the company. And then we move to tactics, and where, as you have read a lot about 4 P's of marketing, that is, what are the tactics you employ to work on the objectives that you have set. That is the product, the price, the place, and the promotion. And finally, look at the financials, which is the performance, how you are doing for your marketing. So it is the margin, return on investment, and customer lifetime value. Now let us look at Airbnb, how they use this marketing process for their business. As you know, Airbnb is the company which has not invested in anything, but what they do is using technology, using social media, they provide the accommodation, the apartments all over the globe to the people, and also ask the people who would like to give their accommodation to the guests who want to come and stay. So when we talk about the objectives for this company, Airbnb, where we talk about the 5 C's, so the biggest objective for Airbnb is how to improve the customer experience. So when we say the customer experience, so you need to define who is the customer. So you and me are the customers for Airbnb. What is the company? That is Airbnb. Who are the competitors? The hotel industry as a whole all over the globe. Collaborators, again you and me. And what context you will be using for this objective? That is the social media economy, that is the sharing economy. So that is about the objectives for Airbnb. we move on to the strategy, which is the STP, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So when we talk about the segmentation, so Airbnb has segmented their customer base into, say, 6 categories. So in terms of the location, like some people would like to visit, like recently during Eid, most of the people would like to go for their Hajj. So the location is fixed. Similarly, for adventure, which could be seasonal or throughout the year, and some people are always looking at the price first before they visit. So that is another segmentation they have done. So during the summer holidays, maybe or during the vacation time, maybe a Christmas break. So that vacation segment is separate. Then there are certain families they would like to go out and they are looking for something which we call as home away from home, and the whole family would like to move, or maybe joint families would like to go for such outing. Then there are students who are traveling or for working or for some share exchange programs. So that is another category which they have put under segmentation. If we talk about targeting, targeting is about the focus. So what sort of focus you will put on each segment and at what point of time. So again, as I discussed earlier, for location, the focus is different. So what are the most visited tourist places where the people go at what point of time in the year. So based on that, they put their focus. Adventure, price, vacation, family, we just discussed, and students. So what is the focus? Then comes the positioning. So what is the value proposition they are giving, or they position Airbnb for that target segmented audience in terms of location, adventure. So that value which they add to position themselves. Then we move on to the tactics. Now, the 4 Ps, which you know very well, if I talk of Airbnb, the product is nothing but the apartments. Now, these apartments are offered by the host, like if I have some spare accommodation or during at any point of time I want to give it. So rather than doing all the things, I go to Airbnb and I upload all the things over there. And so the product is the apartment. It can be studio, it can be 1 bedroom studio apartment, it can be a single room, or it can be a whole flat. So that is the product. What is the price? In this case, we are talking of this bedroom studio apartment, which is around $60 per night. So that is the pricing, and they keep that, keeping in view the competitors' pricing in mind in that location with that accommodation. So when we talk about place, so that means the location, so which is very very important. In fact, in real estate, they always say what are the 3 top parameters on which real estate is based. So they say location, location, and location. So same for Airbnb. It is the place that is. Some people would like to live near the beach. Some would like to be part of the downtown, that is the city center. So location is one of the areas which they focus on as their tactics. Then in terms of promotion, so it is the share economy. So mostly it is on the social media. So what they do is they have a very good review system where the host give the reviews about the guest, and the guest gives the review about the host and the accommodation. For example, if you look at this, is the accuracy, the communication, the cleanliness, the location, the check-in, how easy it was, how fast it was, and the value. So this is a sort of a promotion, because people then it is rated, then people look at that accommodation and then they decide whether they should be staying there or not. So that's the promotion. And the last one is your financials. So you look at margin, ROI, return on investment, and then the customer lifetime value. Now here the question is, which we talk about, how does Airbnb make money? So what Airbnb is doing, so they have the people who would like to give their accommodation to the guest, and there are guests who would like to live in that accommodation. So they charge both the parties, from the host they charge, and from the guest who would like to stay. So they charge from both sides, and that is how they make the money. Now, how they increase their margins, or how they uh, increase their business. So the simple thing is that through good customer experience, and that is what we talk about the objectives as we started with this case study. So they try to have the accommodation always occupied. They want that accommodation to be full most of the time. That is the occupancy, as you know, in the hotel industry. That is the thing. And it's through the promotion and through the customer experience, they try that more and more people, and they also come to the same accommodation again and again. Now, the three dimensions we were talking about for marketing: number one is the market share, second is the sales forecasting, and the third is the market performance. So, when we talk about the market share, if we talk of the telecom market share in India, you have these four players, right? So Jio is with 34%, Airtel is 28%, Vodafone is 28%, Vodafone and Idea is 28%, BSNL is 10%. So when you look at that share, so why you do that? Because for analytics, you need that data. And before you talk about your marketing analytics, you need all this data to try to have the right positioning, the right segmentation. So we start with the market share as one of the dimensions. The second is the sales forecasting. So you must understand not only for the product or the service that you are dealing in. For example, if I talk about fast-moving consumer goods, FMCG market at the global level. So which are the regions which are growing very fast for FMCG? So if you look at the world as a whole, that is the region-wise. So you will find that Asia Pacific, that segment is dominating in the last say 5 years, and is still going to dominate in the next 3 years. So that sort of forecast you need to, and for that you need the data, and that is what we are trying to gather here. So the third dimension is the performance of your marketing efforts for the company. So you always talk about a dashboard, and you want to know, for example, in the digital age, this is how you look at it. So how many total leads? This is a monthly data. So how many sales you have done? So how many new customers you have made? So how much revenue you have earned during the month? Then how many followers are there on Twitter, on Facebook, on Google Plus, and then LinkedIn, and then how many emails have been sent or received. So then you do the analytics on that. So the market performance is very important as to the tactics that you have employed. So how the things are working for the company or for the product. The next dimension is the market share analysis. So when we talk about the market share analysis, so as you know that firstly you look at the market size, then you look at the market growth, and then you look at the market share. So you cannot just look at the market share, because you need to understand the size of the market growth. So I'm revising all this since you have already studied all these concepts in your marketing. But for the analytics point of view, why this is important, so that's the revision we are doing. So when we talk about the market share, it is important to calculate and interpret all the three things. Now, with this pandemic, COVID-19, the global PC market has again gone up. So the demand for your PCs have gone up. So when we talk of market share, if you look at these six players, Lenovo is leading, so then HP, then Dell. So now question here is that is Lenovo really leading? Is Lenovo the dominant player and is having the maximum market share? Now, to answer this question from the analytics point of view, you need to have the market share. One is by volume and one is by value. Now, we always look at the value market share. To give you one example, there are two players in the, say, mobile sector. One is Apple, one is Oppo. In terms of the volume, maybe Oppo is leading, dominating the market. But in terms of the value, Apple has the dominance. So we always look at the value market share. Remember that. So when we talk about the sales forecasting, it is very important to predict the future sales as the first thing from where we start our marketing efforts. So this can be done by various methods which you have already studied. So some of the methods which are adopted by the business houses is executive opinion method, sales force opinion method. You ask the executives, so what is their opinion? So the sales force, which is on the ground, you ask them as to what they think, or maybe the customer expectation method. But for all this, you need the data. And then you have statistical method, and you have studied time series forecasting. That is the trend analysis. So you look at the trend without the seasonality. So this is a graph where the blue line is the sales and the red one is the trend. So there is no seasonality we are considering. So the red is the trend. And then you project the sales based on that. But if you consider the seasonality, again the data matters in analytics, then you get this sort of trend, and then you can forecast accordingly the sales, the projected one, and the blue one is actual sales. So based on that, you try to forecast. Now for the market performance, it is very important to understand the NSOF metrics, which you might have recollected that for the growth, and then try to look at the performance and then see how we can make the strategies which we discussed in the marketing process. So the metric says that you have the markets and you have the products. So the market is the current market in which you are operating, or there could be a new market. Similarly, product, the current products and the new market. The first stage of NSOF metrics and the strategy that we use is what we call as the market penetration. That means we would like to increase our share with the current product in the current market, and that is what we call as the market penetration. Then we move on to the second level, which is the product development, wherein what we try to do is we try to introduce a new product in the current market only. Then we move forward and then we try to go to a new market with the existing product or products. And the last one, sorry, the last one is diversification. So wherein we try to introduce new products in the new market. So the product is new, the market is new. And as we move from market penetration to diversification, the risk increases. Now let me give you one example of NSOF metrics of Apple. So if you look at this, Apple started with iTunes. They started with iTunes for Mac, and it was iTunes only for Mac. Then they moved to the next stage, which is the product development. So they introduced iPod. Now this was a new product, but in the current market only, that is in the Mac platform only. Then they moved on to the third, which we say the market development. So what they did, They used the same product, which was the iPod, but they introduced that in the Windows platform as well. So it was for Windows as well as for Mac. So that was a new market. The Windows users was the new market for them. And then they diversified, and then a new product, iPhone, for new markets. So this is how the INSOF metrics. So this will help you in understanding the performance indicators. So if I go to the next one, so when we talked about the penetration, so I said that means I want to gain market share in the existing market. So I'm not going to a new market. There are four ways to penetrate better. One is by improving the product. The second, adding more value. The second is by maybe lowering the price adjustment. The third could be I can increase the promotion. And fourth is I add more distribution channels for the distribution. So these are the four ways. And I need to collect the data for analytics for any of the four things which I am doing for the penetration. Then we talk about brand performance and satisfaction. So when we talk about these two parameters, I need to understand the brand ladder. And if you recollect, you had seen this diagram before. So in the brand ladder, we move from satisfaction to delight to engagement to empowerment. So wherein we start with satisfaction, that is the starting of the trust and the confidence in the brand, and then the delight where that trust increases manifold and there is an element of surprise and you reach a peak experience with the brand. Then you move to the engagement stage wherein the loyalty comes in, the customer loyalty comes in, and you have a sense of belonging to that brand. And then comes the empowerment. And Google stands there today, empowerment. So where there is a fulfillment and you get a status in the society and it helps you with the personal growth. So that's the brand ladder. So the performance indicator is where you are on this brand ladder. So one thing very important to understand. So when we talk about the brand performance, so there could be a company which is number one in penetration. There is a brand which is number one in penetration. There could be a brand which is number one in awareness. People know about that brand. There could be a brand which has the most likes in the world. But are they the market leaders? Are they the strongest brands? The answer is no. So which is the strongest brand? It is one single parameter for the performance of brand, and that is the value market share. That is the highest sales in value that decides which is the strongest brand. When we talk about the usage, now usage generally is used for segmentation, but here we are talking about in terms of the performance indicator. So the usage rate, now the market is divided by the amount of product bought or consumed. So it can fall in service of product light, medium or heavy. For example, when we say the usage is light, that means, for example, a product car is there. I'm not going to buy car every hour, every day, or every month or every year. So the usage in a way is light. But I will use, right, the petrol every day, the diesel every day. So that product I need every day. So the usage is very heavy. Similarly, this is for data collection, for analytics, and for interpreting that data. It is very important for the analysis. The medium could be like you are using your internet service provider for the broadband connectivity. So it is not every day you are doing it. It is not after 1 year. Maybe you are doing monthly, quarterly, or yearly. So that is medium, we call it. So based on that, we do the analytics. So that is the end of lesson 4 of unit 1, which was market analysis. Let me have the recap. We talked about the marketing process. Then we looked at how Airbnb used that marketing process for their business. We talked about the 3 dimensions, that is the market share, sales forecasting, and the market performance. Under market performance, we talked about in detail the branding, the usage. So that is what we did. There is a small quiz for you, so please have your notebook and the pen ready for this. Number one question is, what are the 4 ways to improve the penetration? I give you some time to write your answer. 4 ways to improve the penetration. Remember, penetration is with the existing product in the existing market. The second is the most important factor you need to tell to become the strongest brand. And number 3 is what CLV stands for. If you have written your answers, you can compare the answers here. So 4 ways to improve penetration: price adjustment, product improvement, increase promotion, and more distribution channels. Most important factor to become the leader: value market share. What CLV stands for? It is customer lifetime value. So that is all from my side. You can write to me for any questions at gsingdjmt@gmail.com. And the last thing is, you can go to these further readings if you want. The one which I took is from Airbnb marketing process. So that's in Coursera. You can find through this link. Then there is another very good case study on Nissan. So on InSeed link. So you can go through if you want. And thank you very much for being there and listening to me. And see you soon for the next lesson. Goodbye for now.